I, Mrs. I, Mrs. Anju Singh, on behalf of Thakur College of Science and Commerce, Chemistry Department, Junior College, extend a very warm welcome to one and all present over here today for this webinar on olefin metaphases. I feel deeply honored and happy to welcome our guest speaker for the day, Dr. Prasenjit Ghosh, sir, professor in the Chemistry Department of IIT Bombay. So we are indeed very happy to have you here today. A very warm welcome to you, sir. I also extend my happiness in welcoming my dear students who have joined for this webinar today, my fellow colleague teachers of the junior science. And before we start with our program for the day, let's seek the blessings of the Almighty by offering our prayers to Lord Ganesha. For this, I would request Seema Madam to please recite the Ganesh Vandana. Over to you, Seema Madam.
Thank you, Anju Madam. So let's all begin with the prayer. I'll be chanting the prayer. I wish all of you, along with me, with folded hands and closed eyes, listen it, and if you wish, you can chant along with me. Om. Om. Om Gananantva Ganapati Gum Havamahe Kavim Kavinam Upamashravastamam Jeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspata Anashrunvannutibhissidasadanam प्रणो देवी सरस्वती वाजेभिर्वाजिनीवती धीनामवित्रियवतु गणेशाय नमः सरस्वते नमः श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरि ओम ॐ एकदन्ताय विद्महे वक्रतुण्डाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः Thank you, Anju Madam. Anju Madam, you are on mute.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, now I would request Reshma Tendulkar Madam to kindly give a brief introduction of her college and achievements of her college to the audience. Reshma Madam.
Thank you, Anju Madam. Good evening to everyone present over here to attend today's webinar on olefin metaphysics. On behalf of Thakur College of Science and Commerce, Chemistry Department, Junior College, I, Reshma Tendulkar, want to take a pride moment to extend a very warm welcome to our distinguished guest speaker, Dr. Prasenjit Ghosh. Akshay Gawande sir, my dear colleagues and students. I am honored to give a brief introduction of our Thakur College of Science and Commerce. Our educational institute, Thakur College of Science and Commerce, was established by Thakur Educational Trust in the year 1992. Our motto is Journey Towards Excellence through quality education for overall development of all the students. There are various 18 courses being conducted across 8 streams and 3 specializations in our college. Our college has been accredited with grade A by NAAC. Our institution is recognized as ISO 9001:2015 certified institution. PCSC is recognized as a PhD Center for Chemistry. TCSC secures 13th rank in Best Private Autonomous College ranking. Our college got Best College Award for 2018-19 from University of Mumbai. In 2020, our junior college result was 99.41% and commerce was 98.12%. Moving on, over to Anju Madam.
Thank you, Reshma Madam, for the brief introduction of the college. Now I would request Mr. Vinod Pandey, sir, to kindly introduce our guest speaker for the day, Dr. Prasenjit Ghosh, sir, to the audience. Over to you, Vinod, sir.
Thank you, Anju ma'am. Thanks for this honor. I am profoundly delighted to take an opportunity to introduce the chief guest for the day, Dr. Prasenjit Ghosh. Sir is a very renowned professor of chemistry at IIT Bombay. He has received his PhD from Columbia University, New York in the year 1998, following 2 postdoctoral stints at Brookhaven National Laboratory at the University California, Santa Barbara. Sir joined IIT Bombay in the year 2003. He received the CRSI Browns Medal in the year 2014 of the Chemical Research Society of India and the Distinguished Lectureship Award in the year 2011 of the Chemical Society of Japan. He served in the editorial advisory board of Organometallics and Polyhedron since the year 2011. Sir's interests are in the domain of organometallic chemistry in homogeneous catalysis and biomedical application. So student, heavy applause for the chief guest is a much needed. Now we request the honorable chief guest to address the gathering and cast the light of his knowledge upon us. His comments are quintessential for the student who want to be like him one day. Sir, you have motivated us all enough by being an example of light in the darkness. We would be delighted with your expertise and knowledge in every possible ways. So without consuming any time, student, I would like to call upon Dr. Prasenjit Ghosh to accompany us on this virtual stage to enlighten us with his words of true wisdom. Sir, the dais is yours. Hello.
Hello. Am I audible?
Sir, I request you. The dais is yours, sir. Yes, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. And let me see if I can share my screen, if this works out okay. One minute. One minute, please. Just
Yes, sir.
yeah, let me just get suggested a little bit. Okay. Okay. Good evening. Is my slide the screen visible to you? Hello.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Is it, and am I audible as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. To begin with, let me just thank all of my distinguished colleagues of your college to invite me to talk about chemistry this evening. Particularly, I'd like to thank the principal, madam, as well as Dr. Kheer, who invited me to give this talk. In the beginning, I thought that I would talk about olefin metathesis. Then I am told that by and large, this would be a audience which are of intermediate level, and so that the talk should be made as general as possible. And in context of that, I have a little bit modified the topic. That I will be talking on olefin metathesis, but however I made it more general and have given the big picture of olefin metathesis, so that this assimilates well with the audience or young students who would be there in the audience. So without further ado, let me start my lecture. Now, to begin with, what we see is that all of us are living in an extraordinary time with unprecedented phenomena happening all around us. Unprecedented natural calamities, cloudburst, flooding, climate change. These are words all of a sudden have become very important, gain prominence, and to the extent that all of us are bothered about it right now in a very big way. So the reason that I am talking all of this is that if we are to identify the main factors or the community or the group of people who would be responsible for much of this havoc which is going on around us, it would certainly be the chemist, the community of ours. Okay. So I will dwell on that, and then I will come back to this olefin metathesis. So the title of my talk today is let me write chemistry and the 3 E's. Is my screen visible? Hello?
Yes, sir. It's
Yes, sir.
visible.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Any time, no, I would have no idea if there is any interruption or something. So please stop me and let me know if there is any internet outage. Otherwise, I will think that it's going on smoothly. So what are these 3 E's? The E's, 3 E's are energy, environment, and Earth, our planet. Okay. Now, what is the role of the chemist? Where chemist comes in play? Chemist comes in play in this energy, because we generate energy. We generate energy for over centuries, and as a result, when energy is generated, we get power, we advance civilization, we take the society forward, but it comes at the cost of some footprints, energy footprints, which sort of irreversibly change the world. So there are energy footprints. These sort of destabilize our planet, our environment, and as a result, when this balanced become off balance, then all of these calamities shows up as a reaction from the nature. So energy footprint on planet Earth are devastating. And what it boils down to is that we chemists, we are responsible in generating energy, but what it boils down to that we should use chemistry to generate energy that should not harm our climate, our planet, so that the planet becomes a safe place to live on. Okay, so advancement not at the source, not at the cost of energy. Okay, now let me elaborate this. So this energy propels development, but leaves footprint on environment as well as planet Earth. So what we are interested is that what are these footprints? What are these footprints that we are worried about? Now the footprints that energy usually gives are climate change, acid rain, cloudburst, flash floods, El Nino, and so on and so forth. We can just keep on going. So what it turns out that this footprint is something that we have to reduce in order to save our planet. And to reduce this footprint, we have to target this energy. So let us see how this energy has evolved or had evolved down these pages, down these ages of, let's say, 150 years. So we'll sort of take a look at how this energy scape has evolved during the pace of last 150 years or so. So let us look at a timeline. So this is 2021. Let's say this is 2000, 1900. Now the biggest innovation that occurred around this age, around 2020, 1990 to 2020, is internet or wireless telephony. And exactly about 100 years earlier, let's say if you go down to 1890s or 1880s, the biggest invention that time that mankind was seeing was electricity, AC, DC, electricity invention. So in a span of about 100 years, from 1890 to 2000, the society have gone from just inventing electricity to going to wireless telecommunication. Now, the chemist, the bunch that I'm talking about, they had been all along involved in this development that occurred all the way. How if you look at what was the source of energy in 1990, coal was only the source of energy. Coal, and the coal would come from mines and stuff. So basically, the energy was carbon. So that's why they call it it's a carbon footprint, carbon. And then around 1950s, let's say somewhere over here, the petroleum industry came into being. Crude oil, petroleum industry, and in the extraction process of petroleum industry, olefins, ethylene was formed as a byproduct. A lot of ethylene were developed, and then post 1950s, now these two, let's say coal is C1 feedstock, it is C1 feedstock, whereas ethylene is a C2 feedstock. So what we see that from 1900 all the way to 1950s, even now, it is the carbon based energy that the whole world is consuming. That's the carbon based energy which is whole world is consuming. And the carbon, particularly the coal, petroleum, any carbon based energy is not at all good for the environment, because the footprint which carbon leaves on the environment is devastating. Even though it has propelled the society, even though it has propelled our development, but the development came at a huge price of climate change. How does coal destroys the environment? Well, it emits all of these carbon based, whether be it coal or be it olefins, they give back CO2 to the environment. So they produce carbon dioxides. They produce, when coal is extracted in the process, lot of from the mines, lot of heavy metals like mercury, arsenic, they also go back to the environment. And the fossil fuel in that way is very debilitating to the society, to the environment, and in an irreversible way. So whatever the benefit that we have enjoyed as a mankind on a coal based energy, that had a huge impact on each one of those factors that I have spoken about: climate change, acid rain, then depletion of the water underneath, so on and so forth. And then in 50s, then came the nuclear energy. These, even though it was sort of in some way better than coal, but again this was not a very more cleaner than coal, but not the best solution. Till in 2020s, right now what we are looking at is clean energy like solar, wind, water, hydrogen. So these are cleaner form of energy, renewable energy, biomass, and they would not have any footprint on the environment. They would really not have any footprint. For example, if I use wind for energy, I am not mining wind. Whereas if I use coal for energy, I am depleting the earth reserve of coal. And coal anyway is a very dirty technology in the sense of the negative impact it has on the environment. However, so that is why when I said no, all of this climate change, this, that, who are to be blamed? It all boils down to the chemist, because we chemists found ways to convert coal to energy. We also converted olefins, ethylene, to energy, and other commodity chemicals, and so on and so forth. So it is chemists who had been playing all the thing, or who had been fueling the advancement forward. And there is a wonderful set of chemistry which is associated in development of each of these feedstock for the societal good. Now, that is where the big picture comes into play. So there was, as I said, in early 1900 till up to now, it is all carbon based, either C1 or C2, C2 for ethylene or olefin. Now for C2 we will come, let me show you some C1. So what was the main reaction which was at that point, was they converted coal to acetylene. And this is also a C2 feedstock, whereas ethylene also is a C2 feedstock. Ethylene came from olefin, and this process was done by very simple reaction. Calcium carbide plus CO gives acetylene plus calcium hydroxide. Now this is a very important reaction, because now a C1 which is coal, a C1 fragment has been converted to a C2 fragment. This is C2, and then a lot of chemistry developed around C2, which is called Reppe chemistry. And what Reppe chemistry did is they sort of utilized this acetylene, which is a C2 fragment, to convert into a wide variety of chemical products, commodities, which would help. We will take a look at this. Now we come back to the other C2 fragment, which is ethylene. Ethylene was obtained from petroleum, and as the petroleum industry which gathered momentum, coal sort of became obsolete, particularly because of two reasons: that it was ruining the environment, and also because the coal reserves globally was depleting in many countries. However, having said that, globally about 30%, around 30% of global power outage comes from coal, still comes from coal. And that is why all these clean air treaty in Paris, which was signed maybe 2 years back, which says that all the coal power plants have to be decommissioned in maybe 5 or 10 years of time, so that we move completely away from coal. Okay. Now, moving away from coal is not the solution, because now even the petroleum reserves are getting depleted, which is a C2 feedstock. The difference between the petroleum C2 feedstock and the coal C2 feedstock, which is acetylene, is that this is acetylene and that is ethylene. And these two simple molecules are feeding our society. With ethylene C2, the two big reactions which had come in place, and both of them went on to Nobel Prize. One is olefin polymerization and the other is olefin metathesis. So both of these reaction, olefin polymerization as well as olefin metathesis, from this C2 fragment became seminal discoveries which went on to win the Nobel Prize. And then today our discussion will be on olefin metathesis. Now this is the big picture. Now all the way through, if you see all of these, they are all interconnected and they have an underlying theme. What is the underlying theme? That they are utilizing these C2 fragments into energy or into fine chemicals, commodity chemicals. So that is a parallel which is seen not only for any resources which has come out of the coal, but also for any resources which has come out of the petroleum industry, that how to utilize this C2 chemical feedstock. For petroleum industry it was ethylene, we will talk about olefin metathesis, and for the coal it was acetylene. Okay, so let me just spend 5 minutes on the acetylene, how acetylene got converted to various chemical, and all of this has been achieved by transition metal organometallic chemistry. Now each of these reactions are a beauty to look at, beauty to understand, but given the audience I will just give the conversion at this point. So acetylene is a very difficult reagent to handle, in the sense that it is explosive and you cannot really do reaction with it. It's a gas, explosive gas. It has a, that's why they make welding. Acetylene welding is used for welding. So there was a scientist called Reppe in BASF in 1930s when he researched ways how to handle acetylene, and that resulted in a whole bunch of products that he made after successfully being able to handle acetylene, and that is called Reppe chemistry. So I'll just give you a flavor of Reppe chemistry. So with acetylene in presence of nickel, they could make cyclooctatetraene. With acetylene, nickel triphenyl phosphine, they could make benzene. With carbon monoxide, water and iron catalyst, they could make phenol. With carbon monoxide, water, vinyl acid, with HCl, mercury, vinyl chloride, with formaldehyde, water, they could make propergyl alcohol, another formaldehyde, they made this diol, then hydrogenated, and then finally they made a polyvinyl pyrrolidine with it from this diol. That was patented, but we are not going to go into that. With formaldehyde, they make amido. So these are just few representative examples that people could develop from starting from this simple acetylene, and this acetylene was obtained from coal. So C1 fragment becoming C2 chemical feedstock, and C2 chemical feedstock giving rise to all sets of chemical reactions. So these all of these developments were taking place from 1900s to 1940s, around that time. Okay, so then around that the ethylene came into the picture. Ethylene came into the picture from the petroleum industry. So now we have crude oil, which had a lot of ethylene, and then the oil, the hexane stuff was used for gasoline, and then this was used for olefin polymerization. This also, this is the Ziegler-Natta polymerization. They could make polyolefins, this, and that won Nobel Prize in 1963. Okay, so all these polymers that you see arose out of outcome, an offshoot of petroleum industry byproduct. Ethylene is nothing but a byproduct of petroleum industry. While they were cracking oil, gasoline, these are hexanes or octanes, so they were also getting ethylene, and they had no idea what to do with ethylene. Ethylene was extremely cheap, even cheaper than coal, and they were finding ways how to utilize ethylene. And another important reaction which emerged for gainful utilization of ethylene is olefin metathesis. Now, just before I go into talking about olefin metathesis, I just want to stress upon you that the way people made various functional chemical intermediates from acetylene when coal was used as the main technology, main source of feedstock, chemical feedstock for the industry, and when the focus shifted from coal to ethylene, then people made, or chemists made, the same set of functional chemicals which they had made from coal, but this time they made it from ethylene. So that is also a daunting task, to make the same chemical one time from coal, another time from ethylene. So I will just draw a parallel for that. For example, coal to acetylene I have already shown. HCl, H2, H2SO4, and I think mercury, that gave acetaldehyde. And similarly, crude oil, they got ethylene, and ethylene with oxygen, HCl, PDCl2, copper chloride, which is called Wacker's process, they got acetaldehyde. So it's the same chemical, this acetaldehyde, made one time from coal via acetylene, or from crude oil via ethylene. Similarly with HCl, Hg2Cl2, they made vinyl chloride, and the same vinyl chloride could be made here from ethylene using oxygen and Cl2. So again we see a parallel. Similarly, let's say the HCN, and nickel catalyst, they could make vinyl cyanide, and the same vinyl cyanide was obtained from propene via oxidation and ammonia, and this is called Sohio process. Another example is this with oxygen gave the acid, which again would be made from acetylene using carbon monoxide, water and nickel catalyst. So what we have over here is a bunch of functionalized chemicals which at one time could be obtained from acetylene, and the same set could be obtained from ethylene. So that's sort of the beauty of chemistry, and that is why I want to stress that for developing the carbon based economy or carbon based energy, both from coal as well as from ethylene, it is the chemist that have played a vital role, and the footprints for each of these technologies are so deep and entrenched that they are having adverse effect on the climate. So in that way, by and large, everything boils down to us to make the change and to make it happen. So with that, so that is sort of the big picture. So with that, we come to this olefin metathesis. Now, olefin metathesis was attempt to utilize olefins which are coming out of the crude thing for a better way, and the reaction is a really interesting one. The reaction is really very interesting one. For example, if you take two olefins R1, R2, then what you get is a product where R2 plus ethylene, as if somebody has cut this olefin and joined this fragment together and joined the other fragment together. So this blue one gives ethylene and the red one gives olefin. So that is a beautiful reaction. That is a beautiful reaction. The reactions which come into play or come is parallel to it, parallel to olefin metathesis, are Wittig reactions. So Wittig reactions people are much aware of. Let's say you take an aldehyde or ketone and then you have the Wittig reagent. What you get is as if in this case too somebody has cut this olefinic double bond and joined this part to this part, giving the phosphine oxide, and taken this fragment and joined it with this to give this olefin. So it is sort of a reaction which is close to what was observed, this olefin metathesis. So that's why a reaction which comes very close. And the word metathesis means the simple exchange of particular reaction. So what is a metathesis reaction? It's a salt exchange. So an example of metathesis reaction is for example a reaction of KCl plus NaF giving NaCl plus Kf. So this is simple ion exchange. simple ion exchange. So it is a metathesis reaction. Now in olefin, what we see is that we have giving so why it is called olefin metathesis? Because the substrate is olefin, the reacting substrate is olefin. And why it is metathesis? It is metathesis because as if the head groups, this is one head group and this is another head group, and this is another head group, and this is another head groups. These head groups are getting exchanged. So what we have over here is head group 1 with head group 4 and head group 2 with head group 3. So it is a exchange, simple exchange of the olefinic head groups, and that is why the term olefin metathesis was coined. That is the term olefin metathesis was coined. So this is metathesis, means exchange of the olefin head group, exchange of the olefin head groups. Okay, and in a very simple way. So one thing which was very fascinating about this reaction is that it was so clean. If you look at two olefins, they giving product, but if you look at the thermodynamics of it, you see that carbon-carbon double bond is broken. Here also carbon-carbon double bond is broken, and there also carbon-carbon double bond is formed and carbon-carbon double bond is formed. So it is thermoneutral. There is no driving force. Entropy wise, you see, it is two molecules reacting to give you 2 molecules. There is no drive. There is no forward drive. It is not 2 molecule becoming 3 molecule product. It is 2 molecule becoming 2 molecule product only. 2 molecule reactant becoming 2 molecule product. So there is no drive. Similarly, there are 2 olefinic bonds are being broken and 2 olefinic bonds are being formed. So there is no drive, neither thermodynamic nor like entropic, neither enthalpic nor entropic. Okay, so that is what at that point of time perplexed the community. And if you see, if I go back, as I said, see, olefin metathesis, olefin metathesis first observed, this phenomenon was first observed in 1950, mid 50s, 54 I think, mid 50s. And olefin polymerization first observed also in 1950s. So they are sort of like contemporary. Okay. But the funny thing is, olefin polymerization, everything was solved, right from the mechanism, utility, everything, so that in 1963 it got the Nobel Prize. But for olefin metathesis, the reaction was so complex and so many analyses, people even didn't understand much of the reaction, that to figure out everything and finally to get acceptance, it was in 2005 Nobel Prize. So about half a century went into understanding this mechanism or finding utility of this mechanism. So, but if you look at their start date, they both were sort of invented around at the same time, 1950s, and that was the time when the petroleum industry, it boomed globally. There was a boom of lot of petroleum industry, so there were a lot of focus on utilizing like the products which has come out of cracking and extraction of the crude oil. So this reaction was a very complex one. We are not going to look into the mechanistic details or not, because, and I will just give you a simple mechanism just a simple one because I'm running out of time as well. So what the active species, the main species is a metal metal carbene species, metal olefin. So it is a metal olefin active species. It reacts with let's say one olefin. So this carbene species reacts with this. It forms a metal cycle. And that eliminates the olefin and it produces another active species, and that then subsequently reacts with another olefin, and again goes through intermediate to give this catalyst and the olefin this is sorry I think two. Okay, so this sort of is a cycle. The important thing is that to know that the catalyst is a metal metal carbene. It is metal bonded to Cr2 species. That is the important thing, and that it goes through a metal cycle. That this reacts with this olefin and forms this metal cycle, four-membered metal cycle. That is the key. Now there were two persons synthetically. One was Strock. First is Strock, who made the Strock's catalyst. For example, so this is a molybdenum catalyst where there is this metal carbene double bond, and then came Grubbs. He made this ruthenium catalyst, which was more famous, more popular because this is more air stable and the people can use it. This, and the lastly was Chauvin. Chauvin established the mechanism. So what Chauvin did is he proved this mechanistic cycle. This mechanistic cycle that I have just spoken about, this cycle, this was contributed by Chauvin. This was done by Chauvin. Okay. So with this, there are a lot of applications which has come. I will just choose three things given the paucity, and I will end my talk. Because of this olefin metathesis, the first application in industrial scale came from a process which is called shell higher olefin process, adopted by industry. olefin process. This process, the beauty is that this process originated because of some environmental issues. They were making detergents which were creating a lot of foam and froth in the seas, and that was contaminating the river beds and so on and so forth. So they wanted to make detergents of a particular chain length. I will not go to the chemistry detail. So Shell higher olefin process actually came up with a thing which could make the soft detergent. So that means that the environmental issues which was there was not there with the detergent made by Schwab process. The beauty of Schwab process is that the Schwab process uses olefin oligomerization process. So this is similar to what olefin polymerization we said, the same mechanism, but they don't make polymers, they make olefin oligomer. Also it does olefin metathesis, the one that we just utilizes olefin oligomerization, metathesis. Third process is olefin isomerization, where the double bonds, the olefinic double bonds migrate to the center from the terminal. And lastly, it also uses hydroformylation to make the detergent. So this process is a very interesting process. I think people can look up later, which uses four very important reactions: olefin oligomerization, metathesis, olefin isomerization, and hydroformylation. And this is the olefin metathesis part I spoke about today. And lastly, I will say that olefin metathesis can be used for making various polymers. For example, polyacetylene is a very good conducting polymers, and polyacetylene is not actually made from acetylene. They are made from cyclooctatetraene through ring opening metathesis polymerization. Where what happens is through metathesis these polymers are cut open, split open to give this polyacetylene, where double bonds are there. So it's an extended polymers with a double bond, double bond, double bond, double bonds like that. So also several drug intermediates. I will just give one example. For example, this drug called Swansonine. It's an anti-cancer drug. Bears the structure. This is used uses olefin metathesis as one of its step. Another one is muscone. It's a perfumetry chemical. Also uses perfume industry. Also uses olefin metathesis as one of its thing. So I think I will sum up now. So the idea is that lot of discoveries have been initiated. They all started with our journey of carbon footprint to utilize various chemicals, and in that perspective olefin metathesis is one such effort of using ethylene. There are other reactions equally or more important, like olefin polymerization, or from the acetylene chemistry, the DAPI chemistry that we spoke about, Paul. And right now we are moving on, like this chemistry is important, but moving on to a more useful or cleaner form of energy, which are solar, wind, where there is no where the raw material is free. let's say if I use wind for energy, water for energy, my raw material is free. I just have to invest on the plant. Whereas if you want to use like coal or petroleum, the raw material gets depleted. There will be a time when there will be no coal on earth. There will be time when there will be no petroleum on earth. But if I use wind, I will always have perpetual, my raw material is perpetually forever. So with that, I stop my talk here and would be happy to take questions.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for such an enlightening and informative session on olefin metathesis. With your permission, we'll definitely take few questions which have come up in the chat box. And for that, I would request Rashmi Jadhav, madam, to please kindly take up the questions from the students and teachers as well. Over to you, Rashmi, madam.
Thank you, Anju madam. Am I audible?
Yes,
Yes.
you are.
Okay. Thank you, Anju madam. With the permission of chair, I, Mrs. Rashmi Jadhav, would like to take few questions from the chat box. Shall I continue, sir?
Yes, continue. Yes, continue.
Okay. Sir, the first question is, any another name for the metathesis reaction is there? This question is asked by Ashutosh Pandey.
Yes. Olefin metathesis is the one minute. Olefin metathesis is a name which got accepted towards the end, and there were several people in the beginning. People did not know how to call it, and one minute. So there were several exchange of olefin head groups like that. There were several other names which were so in the beginning were used to describe the one was olefin disproportionation. That was another name which was used by the first people who observed that. But later on, by some researchers in the industry, they coined the term metathesis. At one point, it was referred to as olefin disproportionation because the olefins are getting split and this, and that was also used in earlier days. In earlier days, there were several names like that, which in 1950s, 60s did not go forward, and it is the metathesis one which sort of gained acceptance over time. Yes, they were like one was
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Who invented olefin metathesis reaction?
Yes. Okay. Now, see, all of these reaction does not belong to a single individual. Let's see, if I tell you who invented cell phone, there is no single inventor. It is an effort of multiple of people. Now, the first person who observed it, olefin metathesis, actually a group of people, some professors and some people from industry, Calderon, and so on and so forth. They were the guys who had first observed the phenomenon, but they didn't know what it was, and they did not receive the Nobel Prize as well. Okay, so even though there are a few people like Calderon, then few others who had published paper and who were the first to publish paper in this area, several of them, at least 5 or 6 of them, several of them could publish a paper on this. Hello, can you hear me? But they were not recognized in the Nobel, like with the Nobel Prize. So Nobel Prize went to the person, Professor Schrock, who first he came in later. His discovery was about 10 years later, where he made a well-defined catalyst. He made the metal carbene complexes well defined, which could do the olefin metathesis. So that sort of gave a proof that the metal carbene are important catalysts. But he came into play about 10 years later, after when the invention was first observed. And Professor Grubbs even came another 10 years later. He came about 20 years later when he found a catalyst which could like polymerizing air. So that was his contribution. And Professor Chauvin is the one who in 1970s proposed a mechanism which stood the test of time. The other mechanisms which were given, including one by Professor Grubbs, turned out to be wrong. Like they proposed a wrong mechanism. So as far as the first person who were there, I think Calderon of Goodyear Tire, he was a researcher. He was the first one to observe it, but he did not get mentioned in getting the Nobel Prize. The people who developed it, the Nobel Prize was given to them who developed the field, than to the one who first observed it. Very good question. Next.
Sir, next question. Is olefin metathesis was globally recognized in 2005? Then why it is not globally used up till now on a large scale?
No. There are, as I said, there are several industries. Achha, olefin metathesis is a reaction which is a conglomerate, which is a group of about 10 different kind of metathesis reaction. There are 10 different kinds, and there is a olefin metathesis polymerization also. They make polymers out of it. Actually, these polymers are they have like one particular main use is they make bulletproof materials out of it. They can stop bullets also. These polymers. So the industry of olefin metathesis, industrial applications and all, they came in 80s and 90s, 95. Those are the time lot of industry were developed. They were developed mainly on the for high-end materials, devices, polymers, those kind of applications, and they have been taken up. Like if I could, I ran out of time, but I could have given one lecture on various applications of or industrial applications of olefin metathesis. They will even Shell higher olefin polymerization process that I said, that also includes olefin metathesis as one of its process. So that was the first acceptance of olefin metathesis in industry, 1973. Shell shop plant was was installed in US in 1970s, I think 73. So from 1973 onwards, olefin metathesis have been embraced and adopted in the industry for various application purposes. Even though it received the Nobel Prize in 2005, but it's been accepted for many technology, industrial processes in the industry.
Sir, next question. What happens with metal carbon after reaction? Does a byproduct form or it has only catalytic use?
Okay. The thing is this. Yes. Good question. The metal, if you were to look at the mechanism, what you would see that the active species in olefin polymerization changes with each polymerization. So whatever the initial metal carbon species which starts the reaction, when it reacts with first molecule of olefin, so the first carbon which is bound to the metal, that goes to the olefin, and then metal picks up the other head group and becomes another carbon species. So metal carbon species sort of changes with each reaction with olefin. It is not one catalyst doing. There are several metal carbon species which are formed as many of the reactant olefins are reacting. What happens to the last species? The last species, they will when the reaction gets over, they will do the workup and all, and that time it will decompose or something.
The next question. How this reaction helps to save our environment?
Okay, yeah. How this is a question, no? It is very open-ended. Okay. Just because something has won Nobel Prize does not mean that it is environmental friendly. First of all, you got to realize, like, we don't give Nobel Prize for first assessing. We first they assess the scope of the reaction. How did it transform? And all this transformation is commercial benefit. They will, like, wherever there is a commercial interest, they will transport and transform stuff, and some becomes very big. Okay. In terms of olefin metathesis, it does not how does it benefit? It will benefit by making new materials, new drugs, new compounds. Let's say it makes so many drugs, antiviral, anti-cancer, this, that. In that way, those molecules will benefit the society. Let's say it makes new materials in kind of polymer, bulletproof materials, this, that. In that way, application wise, it will make it will benefit the society. But whether the reaction will be beneficial to the environment, that is a different issue. Even coal benefited the society. No, coal produced electricity, steam engine, fuel rockets, like ran train, everything coal did. So it benefited the society. That's why people were developing coal. But it benefited the society, but ruined the environment. It benefited the society, like humankind were benefiting. Even from petroleum, humankinds are benefiting, but it is ruining the environment. So long-term impact of olefin metathesis depends on the particular reaction which is adopted in large scale. And olefin metathesis does not have a single, it's not referred to as one reaction, many reactions. So the question in that way is very open-ended.
Sir, next question. How do you know that whether particular reaction is metathesis?
How do I know?
Yeah.
Okay. It is very easy. No, you have two olefins to start with, and you will get two different olefins to end with after the reaction. So that if you identify what is your product, that will tell you that whether the reaction occurred or not. And there were a lot of series of experiments which were done.
Which catalyst is used for the olefin metathesis?
Okay. Oh, several. Tantalum, molybdenum, these are air sensitive ones. Ruthenium is the one which right now, which are as a metal, which is air stable, and they have like based on ruthenium metal, they have several, maybe 1000 different formulations of ligand and ruthenium, different types, all of which can do olefin metathesis.
One more
There are
question.
many.
Okay, many. The reaction is costly, sir. This olefin metathesis reaction is costly.
Okay, right now, I'll tell you this. If you do small scale reaction in your laboratory, these are not costly. These are not costly in the sense that, and also the catalyst efficiency are so high that you don't need lot of ruthenium. Even a tiny bit of ruthenium, the best ruthenium catalyst has 1 million turnover. So one molecule can give 1 million product. One molecule of the catalyst can give 1 million product. So you only need, even if you need catalyst, this metal, ruthenium or this, you need them in very minute quantities. For example, I'll tell you this: if you want to buy a Grubbs catalyst, maybe a 250 milligram or something, it will cost you 5,000 rupees or 10,000 rupees from Aldrich, and it will be delivered to your laboratory. So 10,000 rupees for one chemical, one catalyst, but you can do hundreds of reactions with that, or maybe hundreds, more than that also you can do. So in that way, it is not costly to do it in the laboratory scale, to do research, no. But when you want to use it in big scale, when you want to make an industry out of it, obviously then it will be more expensive. So that's why they do cost analysis. They will do this in a pilot plant, and if the economics works out, then only they proceed. It is the economy which drives the chemistry, unfortunately or fortunately, always.
Okay, sir. What are the benefits of olefin polymerization?
What are the
benefits of olefin polymerization?
Olefin polymer, you make polymers. You see so many plastics that you make polyethylene, you make polyethylene bags, so many materials that you make. There are high density polyethylene, branched polyethylene. You make several kinds of materials. One of the properties of these materials are they are hydrophobic. So what is hydrophobic means that if water falls on it, the material will not get wet. They don't wet the surface. The material, if you put water on plastic, nothing will happen to the plastic. So you will not wet the material. The material will remain. And there are several applications. A lot of polymer applications are there. particularly material related.
Okay, sir. Are all common olefin metathesis reactions catalyzed by metal carbene?
Yes, yes, yeah. Acha, now, yes, all metal olefin metathesis have to be are catalyzed by metal carbene, but you have two choices in front of you. One is that you make a well-defined metal catalyst. You take a catalyst which has a metal carbene bond, and then use that catalyst for doing olefin metathesis. That is number one. That is the best one, easiest one. The other one is that you generate the metal carbene catalysis from the reaction of the metal and organic compound in situ. That means you make both of them and the metal carbene will be formed in the reaction mixture. You don't isolate them, you just generate them in the reaction mixture, and then you can use them to do olefin metathesis. So it is the after mixing these two reactant, what all metal carbene will be formed, those metal carbene will do the polymerization. So that is called in situ catalysis. So you can do olefin metathesis with in situ catalyst, where you generate the metal carbene in a reaction mixture in situ and do the olefin metathesis, or you can start with well defined Grubbs first generation, second generation, and do olefin metathesis. Both ways can be done.
Thank you, sir. And one more question: what is the difference between straw carbene and Grabs carbene?
Yes, there are a lot of difference. I did not go into this because this audience
Just
is
tell us the few points. No?
Yes, I will tell you this. Straw carbene are highly active catalyst for olefin metathesis. They have extremely high performance, but the problem is that they are extremely air and moisture sensitive. That when you want to do these reactions, you have to do it in the dry box, inside the glove box, under very extremely rigorously dry condition, which is a difficult experimental challenge. Whereas Grubbs carbene is not as active, but you can handle it in open air without any problem. So the catalyst is very sturdy and stable. So these are the primary difference, and there are many more difference which you can elucidate. Yeah.
And one more question, sir: why olefin metathesis is important in petroleum industry?
Yes,
Ashutosh Pandey.
yes, yes.
Second
So
is Ashutosh
olefin metathesis was used in SHOP, cell higher olefin metathesis polymerization SHOP process, where they could make a particular distribution of olefin chain length, whichever they needed for their purpose, by using two different olefins, one of very lower molecular weight or lower chain length, another of very high chain length. They took a group of olefin of very low molecular low chain length and another group of olefin with very high chain length, and did the metathesis of this. As a result, what they got olefins of medium chain length. So low versus high metathesis gave olefin of medium chain length, and those were used for making those detergents, soft detergent in shop. So that's how it got utility in olefin oligomer alongside olefin oligomerization, and these olefins were prepared from ethylene. So that was oligomerization process to make olefins from ethylene, and then they took the smaller one and the larger one and did metathesis and get the medium ones, and medium ones are the ones which were required for making those soft detergents.
Sir, thank you for your for giving your answers. I think I have covered almost all the questions. Over to Anju madam.
One question I wanted to ask.
Yes.
Hello, sir. Hello, yeah, sir. Nowadays, just I'm talking about the energy part. Now the petroleum prices are shooting up, sir. Right, sir?
Petroleum what?
Petrol and diesel prices are shooting up, sir. Right? Petrol prices are.
Yeah.
Which can replace petrol, diesel, or which can be mixed with the petrol and can lower the cost, sir. Can we have?
Oh, acha. No. The petroleum prices are rising up in India is artificial. Artificial in the sense that it is not the trend reflected in other countries. It is what happens. No, government gets some revenue from petroleum prices. So it's artificial. Okay. So it's a regulatory thing. Like let's say if you were to buy petrol right now in US, it will be much cheaper than it is in India or any other place.
Yes, so can
So
chemical
it
which
is
can
artificial. It is not a supply demand rise. Like it is not going up because the petroleum right now in world is going depleting. No, right now it is not a supply demand. Now what they are looking at, but at some point petroleum will vanish from Earth's surface. So what they are looking at technology which are like electricity based cars, or hybrid cars where part hybrid, part petrol, like that they are using. Petroleum and diesel mixing is not a good idea because even if you mix and diesel and all, the idea is not about mixing, but idea is about the emission. The emission of diesel is more harmful to the environment. That's why diesel is slightly cheaper. And emission of petrol is also harmful to the environment, but less harmful than the diesel. So there is so India wants to move over to electric cars and stuff in next, I think, 15 years or so.
Sir, my concern is that can we have some chemical which can be mixed with the petrol and which can lower the cost of the petrol, like because we have got high supply use of petrol. Can we have some chemical like ethanol can be mixed with the petrol or something, like we can prepare some polymer, some chemical?
See, you have to understand the process. The process is that you're going to ignite whatever hydrocarbon you are giving. It's going to ignite and give carbon dioxide. That's the process, no? So some chemical will ignite faster and some will ignite slower, and that's how you get energy. So whatever you do with petrol, you may change. Maybe there may be something which you can add and all. You may change it, but in the end of the day, it's going to have a carbon emission, carbon footprint on the environment, and that is what people are not wanting anyway. And there are people who are now they are doing biodiesel. They are trying to get diesel from a thing. Biodiesel is a renewable resource that they are going to, like, if successful, they will get it from plants fully. But it doesn't stop it solves the depletion of petroleum, but it does not solve the emission problem of petroleum. It will still give carbon dioxide, no, whether you take a biodiesel or a natural diesel. Your emission problem is not solved, but what solves is the renewable nature of the thing. Diesel from natural resources will be depleted at some point, zero, but if you do it from biodiesel, you can grow it, but the environmental pollution or pollution due to emission remains the same, whether it is renewable or not. Next.
Thank you very much, sir. Now, I think I have covered almost all the questions. Over to Anju, madam.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for all the convincing answers. Now I would request Dr. Harshal Keer, sir, to kindly propose the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Anju madam. It's my privilege to have been asked to deliver a vote of thanks on this memorable occasion. Gratitude is not only a great virtue, but the parent of all others. On behalf of the Junior Chemistry Department, Thakur College of Science and Commerce, I, Dr. Harshal Keer, would like to thank our guest speaker, Professor Dr. Prasenjit Ghosh, who honored this event with his presence and delivered a highly interesting and enlightening lecture. I would like to thank the management of TCSE, respected Principal Madam Dr. C.T. Chakraborty, Vice Principal Tiwari Sir, for motivating us to conduct this event. My heartfelt thanks to Junior Chemistry Department in charge, Mr. Ranjit Kumar Singh, and all my colleagues for their valuable contribution, guidance, and encouragement in organizing this event. A special thanks to Dr. Prakash, PhD student of Professor Ghosh, and now a postdoctoral researcher at the University of Tel Aviv, Israel. And last but not the least, thanks to our beloved audience of students and teachers for making this event a grand success. Thank you.
Thank you, Harshal sir. Thank you, Prasanjit sir, for your gracious presence today. We all were
It was
enlightened
nice,
and
nice
very
meeting all of you. Thank you. Nice
same
evening.
here. Yes, thank
Stay
you. Thank
safe.
you so much. Same here.
Okay, with your,
With
due
your permission,
I
we
will
would
be-
like
Yes.
we
Thank
would
you,
like to
madam.
end this session now.
Have
Yeah.
a good evening. Stay safe. Bye.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Ranjit sir,
Yes, yes.
you may end the session, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Bye
Thank you.
bye.